Hello, everyone. We're back for a reading. I slacked off on my readings yesterday. We're reading three books. We're reading today, though, the second founding. We're going to continue for as long as I have it. I think this is a nice thing to do. I get the books from the library and I read them. It helps me with the reading. It helps show a black man reading, actually see a black man reading, and it helps to archive these materials. We don't know where these materials are going to be um, with the banning of books and things like that. They may just be sitting in a library in a basement rotting. Some libraries will sell books to you. Some they may just hold them. So uh, we'll see. By the way, if they're banning books in your town or your county, go to the library and see if they will sell them to you, and you keep the books. We have to be the keepers of the information. We have to get off our fat asses, me included, and do what we can. I don't get a lot of support, so I don't have a lot of resources. But every once in a while, if I come across a book that's 50 cent, I can get it and hold it. Even if I have to hold it in storage because I don't have anywhere to live, you hold it. But let's go with the because information is important to me. I think it's important to humanity, but in the US it doesn't have value, and being thoughtful doesn't have value. And I would argue that's why we are in the situation we are. But that's another situation for another time, another topic, for another time, as they say. There were no African Americans in the Congress that approved the 13th Amendment. Nonetheless, during the debates over the amendment's passage and ratification, blacks in the larger public sphere put forward their own vision of what abolition meant and what kind of society should emerge from the ashes of slavery. They articulated a comprehensive claim to the rights that came with freedom and sought to act upon it. Emancipated slaves in the South moved to throw off the badge of servitude. They reunited families separated under slavery, established churches and schools, claimed the rights of free labor, pressed for civil equality and the vote, and demanded access to land. Demanded. Numerous local and statewide black mass meetings and political conventions took place in the South in 1865, embodying the rapid spread of grassroots politicization. Their demands for equality drew on the claim to being citizens of the Republic, entitled to the blessings of equal liberty. Black newspapers in 1864 began to include the 13th Amendment in their demands, but they were already looking beyond it. Their attention focused on the future rights of the freed people. So when you say you can't create institutions or do things, these people did it with hardly no tech. All the tech we have, we can't do it. You still got to send your child to be brain raped in these schools with all the tech you got? Stop it. Also, unifying families instead of just being separate, and so sick of people saying, "Oh, oh, what you gonna do? Oh, don't. What you gonna? Why you asking them for land? Why you asking them for reparations? They ain't never gonna give you nothing." Demand. We're demanding, or else, the whole society continues to stand in a state of rubble. In the waning months of the war, the black-owned New Orleans Tribune developed a cohort radical program including black male suffrage, equality before the law, equal access regardless of race to public schools and transportation, and the division of plantation lands among the freed people. In the fall of 1865, it pressed for a new constitutional amendment barred states from making any distinction in civil rights and privileges among citizens because of race. Many saw the 13th Amendment as insufficient because it did not mention these principles. Meanwhile, Northern blacks continued their long-standing campaign to civil and political rights. We have the question of equal rights to fight, said a speaker at a black convention in Michigan in 1865, which we have fought for years. Nearly all the black conventions, North and South, demanded the right to vote as an essential and inseparable element of self-government. As always, they invoked the Declaration of Independence, but even before the ratification, the 13th Amendment had subtly transformed blacks' attitude toward the Constitution. To be sure, pre-war black conventions had invoked the Constitution in putting forward their claim to birthright citizenship. But with the Constitution now shorn of its pro-slavery features, constitutional language assumed an even more prominent place in black political culture. Next to Our Heavenly Father declared a statement by a black convention in Mobile in August 1865, we revere the good old Constitution of the United States, now that it acknowledges our existence. Moreover, the amendment demonstrated that the Constitution was malleable. It encouraged people to think that it could be amended again. In September 1865, black leaders formed the National Equal Rights League, demanding full enjoyment of our liberties, complete enfranchisement, and constitutional amendment prohibiting legislation against any civil portion of the inhabitants, native born or naturalized, on account of race or color. Others insisted that once ratified, the 13th Amendment, via the second section, authorized Congress to take action to protect the former slaves. In all the rights of freemen, the section, a black newspaper noted, was exceedingly distasteful to the recent rebels of the late slave states. Meanwhile, the organization abolitionist movement could not decide whether the 13th Amendment marked the end of their decades-long struggle or the beginning of a new one. When the House approved the amendment early in 1865, William Lloyd Garrison called for the American Anti-Slavery Society to dissolve. The amendment has transformed a covenant with death, the original Constitution, into a covenant of life. As a result, my vocation as an abolitionist had ended. But to many abolitionists, the 13th Amendment was a resting place, not the end of their movement. No emancipation can be effectual with and no freedom real, said the veteran abolitionist Henry C. Wright, unless the Negro has the ballot and the states are prohibited from enacting laws making any distinction among their citizens on the basis of race or color. Principles that, if implemented, would rewrite the statute books of the northern states as well as the southern. Wendell Phillips insisted that further measures were necessary to protect the freed people against the denial of their rights by the states. Otherwise, they would be ground to powder by the power of state sovereignty. When the AASS held its annual meeting in May 1865, it rejected Garrison's motion to dissolve. We resigned as president, replaced by Phillips. The organization's official weekly and national anti-slavery standard was already calling for another constitutional amendment, forbidding any state to make distinctions among its inhabitants because of their color. Now the paper appeared with a new motto on its masthead: no Reconstruction without Negro suffrage. Most Republicans at this point were unwilling to go that far. But when Congress convened in December 1865, they had reached a consensus that the 13th Amendment had brought blacks within the purview of a national citizenship in which all enjoy equality before the law, protection by the federal government. The question was how to write these principles into laws in the Constitution and ensure that they were enforced. Enforced. A mightier work than the abolition of slavery, Frederick Douglass declared in 1865, now looms up before the abolitionists, and he might have added the nation. In January of 1865, as the House debated the 13th Amendment, and many months before the enactment of Southern Black Codes, the New York World, the country's leading Democratic newspaper, presciently forecast that despite the abolition of slavery, states might well rely on their traditional powers to enact the laws that made the condition of the freed people intolerable. To prevent this would require all sorts of additional amendments, the end result of which would divest the state governments of all of their present powers. The world's language was hyperbolic, but it pointed to the problem that confronted Republican policymakers. Detailing recent discriminatory state laws, a group of Tennessee freedmen observed, "We have nowhere to look for protection, save to the United States authority." But federal jurisdiction traditionally did not extend to the problem of racially biased laws and law enforcement or private conspiracies, often accompanied by violence to restrict blacks' opportunities or to the right to vote. It remained uncertain how far Congress would go to change the existing legal order by establishing federal oversight of Americans' rights. One thing, however, was clear: the 13th Amendment was not a final answer to the problem of freedom. It turned out to be one indispensable part of a dynamic process that continued for years and gave birth to the 14th and 15th Amendments, further civil rights legislation, and an unprecedented experiment in the South in interracial democracy. Liberty has been won. Charles Sumner declared, "The battle for equality is still pending." So, they're right. I mean, there's another podcaster who said the Klan basically runs the South. They're in the state legislatures. And even in New York, to a degree, upstate has a lot of Klan members. But black people make their own personal space and they're satisfied with it. So who am I to criticize it? The saying how we say, if they like it, I love it. And that's the way we have to function. It's a sad way to function, but it's the way we are, because the black community as a whole doesn't believe in concepts anymore, just personal beliefs. And sometimes the personal beliefs can be fantastic. Sometimes the personal beliefs reality always asserts itself. But and it'll force you to function in the reality, but your personal beliefs still can remain fantastic, which means you have a lot of mentally split people between two things: reality and I guess a false reality, bubble. I like to call them bubble heads. So, the Second Founding by Eric Foner. And I'm not sure which number this is because I'm reading so many different books, which video, which part. But if you're behind the paywall, thank you for your support. If you're not, you should get behind the paywall to get the other half of the readings. Until next time, please use this information in your life. Use it. And try to stay safe.